Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine a light and talk with business leaders from all over the world. We share their insights and expertise so we can all grow together. And I'm excited to chat with my guest today. But before we dive in, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're excited to have you here. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we help businesses scale their revenue using outside-the-box visibility methods. And again, if you're new, welcome and stay to the end because we have a little gift for you. Without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today, Akash Mukherjee with Chartmetric. Welcome, Akash, to the podcast.
Thanks, Heidi, for having me here. Very excited to speak to your audience.
Thank you for being here and taking time out of your day. Can you start us off, Akash, with telling us a little bit about yourself, Chartmetric, and your role within it?
Yeah, definitely. So I work at Chartmetric as the head of product management. So Chartmetric is a music analytics company in the B2B space. So whenever I talk about music tech, people immediately think about Spotify or some of the streaming platforms. We operate on the other side of this business. Spotify and the streaming platforms offer music to the fans, whereas we provide data and insights to the businesses in the music industry. So these businesses could be record labels, distributors, artist managers. And one of a few of the questions that these businesses have often is how do they find the next superstar before they blow out? And then also, how do you grow your existing talent once you have signed them? So that's what Chartmetric is about, and my role there is leading the product strategy, the product roadmap, the team that we have here. It's basically a software. We have a web app and a mobile app. So the features that go in there, the data that goes in there, and understanding what our customers really value, what problems they're trying to solve, and making sure that our technology team is invested in solving those for our customers. That's my focus.
Thank you so much for sharing. So you are in the technology and the software space. So what makes the B2B SaaS market so crowded, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's the B2B SaaS market, I would say, in the last 10 years has gone through this explosion of new products and startups and players that came in, all with good intention. Because if you look at the B2B SaaS or the enterprise software market from a decade ago, it was very centralized with the big players like Microsoft and Salesforce. And even in data and analytics, there were a few big players that dominated the market. For good reason. They have a lot of trust with the customers, and they had a lot of functionalities and features that came bundled in as part of the software. But in the last 10 years, a lot of the startups wanted to innovate, do things differently. And as a result, we ended up creating an explosion of products. So what makes it crowded is, well, one, there is a low barrier to entry. Making software is becoming faster, cheaper, and so as a result, and there's a lot more talent in the software industry now, and everyone wants to disrupt a space. So just the low barrier to entry is one of the reasons, but also unbundling of software led to creation of many different products and many different companies. So if Microsoft or Salesforce offered a suite of offerings, now you have 100 different companies that are offering different components of that software. And as a result, if you look at any software space, whether it's data and analytics or AI or any marketing vertical, for example, marketing technology, you'll see it's so crowded, and you speak to an investor and their question is, how are these companies different? Right? Like they're like often overwhelmed by like, what's going on here? Like, how do I know this one does anything different from the other one?
Yeah. So how have companies and products differentiated themselves in the past?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, in the past, it was part of it was, feature wars, like, companies would try to outdo each other with new features, and that at some point may have been seen as a technology advantage, like you're ahead of the curve, but features can be copied pretty easily these days. So it's not as much a moat as it used to be. I think the other ways they have differentiated is like they would have a sales pitch, which would be either around the product being faster, being cheaper. I think that still obviously is something that a company could use to position themselves and differentiate themselves. But one of the things is customers have gotten smarter and customers want to understand. They wouldn't just take products at face value. Like if somebody says you're faster, they would want to know how are you faster? How are you better? Like how is your product going to provide a better quality? How do you do it? Why would your solution be better than the other one? So I think, yeah, that's the, you know,
What has changed the landscape now, or how has the landscape changed? And what is the role of AI in your space?
yeah. So I think, yeah, a couple of things have changed. One on the on the businesses side, and then on the customer side. So on the businesses side, as I was mentioning, I think um, technology has gotten commoditized a lot. The barriers to entry have gone down a lot, and as a result, in some ways, the barriers to entry is low, but the barrier to be considered seriously has gone much higher because customers are now aware that building software is faster, and there are so many software products out there. There's a table stakes. The definition of the table stakes has increased largely. So if you're a customer, you expect a lot more for what you're paying for. So for a business to enter a market, yes, it's faster and cheaper to build software, but you're expected to build a whole bunch of functionalities right out of the box, right? So and with AI, I think it's going to happen even more at an exponential rate where building software is going to be even faster. And so you're expected to not just have a set of table stakes features, but you're also expected to have have some taste in the product that we build and offer. And on the other side, I think, yeah, customers are getting more informed, more smarter. Also, customers have their own talent pool and own technology skill set. So for a company to be convinced, I mean, they're not just evaluating one vendor with another vendor, they're also evaluating it against should they build it in-house versus buy a product. So that buy versus build is an increasingly bigger question with AI being out there as a technology, not just for the vendors, but also for the customers.
So, Akash, how can a business or product think of standing out in this new landscape?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I have some thoughts. I can share that. So I think one of the shifts that's happening is distribution is becoming more and more important, and the trust that customers have with the company or the person who's running the company. I think more and more people want to know the person behind the company, the person behind the product. And this is even more evident in B2C products where it's more, say, influencer driven, creator driven. So, uh, you know, just knowing who created the software, or it could be any product for that matter, and what was their story? Why did they build it? Like maybe they used to work in that space in a legacy process, legacy technology, and they were personally impacted and they wanted to solve that problem for themselves, and they solved it for somebody else and they were happy, and and telling that story as the company grows, I think that is becoming a key part in selling the product. So I think that trust that can come from just knowing the person is a big part of it. So in general, I think when a new product comes out, I think one thing to do upfront is to have a unique point of view, have the right story, and start with the story before we even get to the product. I would say that's one key aspect. I think there are other differentiators. One on the product side. I think on the product side, with AI becoming a huge thing, I think any company's AI offering will only be as good as the amount of data that they have, right? So being able to, uh, you know, collect data from different sources, but also to have their own proprietary data. I think, especially in a business vertical, like if somebody is operating in a business vertical like music or entertainment or sports, I think just having proprietary data is a huge competitive advantage now. And then lastly, I would say that the third and often overlooked differentiation is customer service. Nothing can outdo an exceptional customer service because every company tries to sell the product, and once somebody buys the product, the real sales process starts after that. And because a lot of products are now subscription driven, so you're often not signing a contract for 3 years. You're signing a commitment only for a month or at most a year. And so the customer's interest and trust with the product will stay if the company is accessible, if they're out there to help them. So I think customer service and customer success is probably one of the most important differentiating factors for.
Absolutely. So, can you share a little bit about your journey in the software space and also any lessons that you've learned over across your journey in general?
Yeah, definitely. So, I've worked so first of all, I've, spent close to 15 years in technology in the tech sector, mostly working in big tech companies. But I also took a detour to consulting for a while. And, when I was working in consulting, I was working with a lot of banking and fintech clients. But other than that, I've worked in big tech and now working at a startup. And here, one of the connecting threads for me has been data and automation and technology in various business domains. So I worked in HR analytics and then supply chain, and now music analytics, right? So I think, while a lot of these industries like consulting and big tech and HR and supply chain, they look very different. Um, my experience, one, I wanted to, experience what's there in each of these industries because I'd heard from friends how it is to work in one industry versus the other. I wanted to experience it, but I also wanted to see if there are some connecting threads, which, you know, if something that I learned in one job can be applied in another job. And, that's something I observe that, even though the industries look very different, there is a common theme. Essentially, all of these companies are trying to solve some problem, you know. So I think essentially it all comes down to problem solving, and problem solving often generally has themes like, if you're a business, you're either trying to make more revenue or you're trying to cut down costs. And when you're trying to cut down costs, there will be certain themes that would arise over and over again. So, for example, a lot of these companies, like, say, banks or supply chain companies, or even something as technical as a data engineering thing, they'll have operational efficiencies that they would want to create because they have certain processes where there are bottlenecks, things move slow, something gets from one place to the other, gets stuck there for, X number of hours or X number of days, and as a result, it slows down the whole process, right? And so, for example, when I was in consulting and I was, helping banks and fintech clients, they were banks naturally have an amount of investment allocated to fight fraud, right? And so when they're trying to fight fraud, they obviously want to catch fraud before it happens. And the extreme scenario would be that they review every single transaction to make sure something is fishy or not. But that's also very inefficient to review every transaction. So then it becomes a question of operational efficiency and effectiveness. So how do you identify the right set of transactions that you need to review so that you are fast enough, but also you don't miss out on any transaction that you should have reviewed, right? And so that concept of operational efficiency and effectiveness are basically balancing speed and quality. I think it's just like a theme that applies across industries and across job functions. So those were, big things for me. I mean, in all of these industries, I think technology was often an enabler. It helped you solve problems. I would say the other thing that I learned is in all of these roles, of course, the technology is there, the product is there, but aligning people on a unified goal is often half the job to solve the problem. Because if we work in five different teams and we have different goals in the company, then we're not going to solve it. So I think, yeah, those are some themes. And then lastly, I would say, as you're solving these problems, I think one of the other things that came that became a theme for me was communicating complex ideas in a simple way. It's often a superpower, whether you're doing it in consulting, in product management, or any of these functions.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to talk about growth for a little bit. So, Kash, what challenges have you seen in the growth of Chartmetric in the area of your expertise, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So, when we think of growth for a product or for a company, I think the first thing gets to how do we define growth? And so, for Chartmetric, and for many other companies, when they're trying to grow, they would try to answer, am I trying to grow the revenue primarily, or I'm trying to grow the user base, right? Um, so for us, when we started and even till date, record labels are our primary customer group at Chartmetric. Over time, we have expanded our customer base to other customers who get a lot of value from our product, all the way from artist managers and artists to distributors, and technology companies. And we try to customize our offering for each of those players, right? And so as we try to grow, one of the challenges or the open questions for us is, should we optimize solely for revenue growth, which would mean that we, spend our energy for the highest paying customers, versus do we want to expand our offering to other customers who may not be the highest paying customers, but being in the music industry, it's in our best interest and in their best interest for the software to cater to them, right? So that's always a question for us to answer, and I think um, there is there wasn't a magic bullet here, but I think the way we solved this is understanding, first recognizing that for us, we are not just a product for record labels anymore. We have the whole music industry that benefits from our product, that has a certain level of expectation from the product to solve their use cases. We also recognize that the offering that we have for uh, labels may not be the same offering that works for artists or managers. So we had to customize our offerings and our pricing plans for each customer type. So that was the first thing that we did, to customize the offering to make sure, what we offer to artist managers is going to solve their problems and not, giving a software that was built for somebody else. But at the same time, we also recognize that we can't solve everything for everyone. And so there are certain areas, like if you're like we never went into solving problems for fans in the music industry, like the listeners of the fans. So we figured that we are best suited to operate on the business, and we still think our primary focus is to cater to businesses in the music industry.
Amazing. So can you share with us, how are you getting in front of your ideal customer? First of all, I know you shared at the beginning, but can you share with us again, who is your ideal customer? And marketing wise, how are you all making sure that you're reaching them? What's worked for you? And I
Right.
don't know if you know the things that haven't worked, but on both sides, like what has worked for you in getting in front of them, or what hasn't worked?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, in terms of how customers get to know us, I think there are two big pillars. We have an exceptional marketing team and we have an exceptional sales team. And so for the marketing team, we like our marketing team is really good at telling stories with data in the music space. And so instead of talking about our software or the features that we offer, we tend to talk more about what interests people in the music industry, which is the story of an artist that is growing from a certain region or in a certain genre. How did they grow? What kind of music did they release? How are their fans reacting to the artist? So I think that really resonates. And that's also where I see it's been a huge learning for me as well while I've been here is a lot of times as companies we are trying to sell features and that is all about us and less about the customer. In this case, as we talk more about the music itself, the artist itself, we are essentially separating ourselves from the equation and focusing more on on offering value and offering something that is insightful. And as people read those stories about musicians and artists and music in different geographies, they naturally get interested in who's writing these stories, and then they find out about Chartmetric. So that's one way we have had like a broad impact on the industry. The other is more of like personal relationships that our sales team, our customer support team. I think it's music industry is a very niche industry and very closely knit industry. So people know each other, and so our sales team and like I mentioned, our customer service team, they try. I think they're extremely nice people and very well connected at, just staying in touch and helping people out. I think there's a word of mouth element to that, which has really worked. Like if a customer really likes our product, really likes working with us, they would naturally spread the word to their peers in the industry. So I think those two are the core foundational pillars of our growth, I would say.
So good. So if you could, let's talk goals. What are the goals, or what is like the North Star for Chartmetric in the next, say, 12 months?
Yeah, so I think our North Star is to acquire as much data as we can and to have proprietary data on our platform because we truly believe that, you know, we are seen as the central source of truth of all music data, whether it's from streaming platforms, social platforms, live events, and any ancillary things like creators, influencer brands, games, whatever impacts music. We want all of that data. Our customers want all of that data on our platform. And the real value keeps compounding when you start building connections between these data sets. So I think we are very clear on that. And we feel all the other offerings, whether it's the visualizations we do, the AI that happens, all of those are just icing on the cake. But the real value is in the foundation that we build, in the data that we have on our platform and the connections between those data sets.
Akash, before we wrap up, thank you so much for your time today. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. Is there anything that, first of all, before we go there, can you share with people how to connect with you and learn more about Chartmetric?
Yeah, definitely. So people can connect with me on my LinkedIn, which can be shared on the on this podcast. Yeah, so feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn if you want to chat further.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to have all of Akash's information in the show notes for you, definitely. And you can go to learn more about Chartmetric. You can go to chartmetric.com and check out their website and learn more there. For those of you listening, if you're watching Akash and I on YouTube right now, thank you. We would love it if there's a button there that says subscribe. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. That's going to allow you to get notified when we have more amazing guests like Akash with us today, sharing their wisdom and their gold nuggets. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or any of the other your favorite podcast platform, and you can leave a review, please do, especially if it's 5 stars. We'd love that. This allows us to be able to share this podcast with more people so that they can start it can support them in growing their business. I promised you all a gift. So if you're looking to grow your visibility, if you're trying things and they're just not sticking, it's not working, you feel like you're not getting the traction in front of your ideal client customer like you want to, and it's not converting you into creating more users, more clients, more revenue, then go ahead and download our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab it there. Thank you again for listening to Akash and I today. Akash, before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share or say that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't touch on?
No, I mean, thanks, Heidi, for having me on the show. It was a great conversation. I would just say that, we live in exciting times as technology is changing really fast and it's impacting all industries. And so I think it's a fun time to think about all the things that we discussed for businesses to learn how to differentiate in this market. And yeah, I think looking forward to how this unfolds over the next 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to see how it unfolds for you as well and how you continue growing. So thank you, Akash, for being here today. Thank you for listening to Akash and I today, and we will see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.